Fala galera, quem fala é o Pedro com mais um vídeo. Dessa vez jogando aqui de Stanley Parable. De Stanley Parable. É isso? Não sei como fala. Um dia eu vou aprender a falar o nome desse jogo certinho. É... Bom, vai ficar um piano de fundo. Mas é isso. É... Jogar, né? Eu lembro que o final que a gente fez.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Eu vou pular isso que a gente já viu. Lembro que no final que a gente fez vídeo passado, a gente ficou lá
All
no
of his
bagulho sem
co-workers were
textura.
gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Eu quero ver o que acontece se tudo que o narrador falar eu fazer o contrário. Não tinha isso aqui.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
Eita. Até agora eu não entendi qual é a... por que eu tenho a função agachar. Eu real não... sei lá, pra que serve isso.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
É isso, mano. Se eu voltar não acontece nada. Ok.
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure.
Tem botão aqui.
Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Ah, ok.
All right, let's see. It's the jump circle.
Nem a... oh. Pronto. Ah, mano, 5 só tá bom demais. Mano, isso é muito... isso é muito bom, mano.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Não tem como eu pular agora, ou é só...
Goodness.
Não, mano, mas...
Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh wait, there's more. Very good. Yes, I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is.
Vamos lá, então.
That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley? This is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's trophies, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test trophy, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Ah, ok. Pô, é sério que era isso, mano? Não. Ok, realmente. Então agora o narrador tinha que começar a falar, né? Ok. Ah, ok.
Psst! Stanley! Come over here! In the vent! I want to show you something!
Ah, mano, eu vou. Ok, vamos lá. Mano, ruim desse jogo. Muito carregamento. Muito tela de carregamento.
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
Ah, que é isso? Virou Tomb Raider, mano.
I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Zona de memória.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap PlayStation port? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Pior que está time aí, mano. Melhor jogo independente, é isso? Bom, é. Meu primeiro beijo, meu primeiro carro. É isso, né? Meu primeiro beijo, meu primeiro beijo, meu primeiro carro. Me lembro do lançamento do Stanley Parable em 2013. Olha lá, mano, esse jogo traz uma vibe meio Backrooms. Eu peguei esse final, mano. Eu não lembro como, eu sei que eu tava fazendo algum bagulho e o Stanley só apareceu morto. Dá pra eu sentar na casa? Não, dá nem pra eu vir aqui.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created. Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Ok. Minecraft, mano. Eu já fiz uma casa assim, tá? Fechou aqui, ó. E aí, mano? Enquanto esse é o conteúdo real do... Não sei, no desenvolvimento, eu acho assim, da hora, mas por só isso...
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the PlayStation, boom, done. And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling with a beloved franchise.
Os caras... Não entendo não, mano. Uma sala séria, mano. Os caras mudou a tradução.
These were simpler times, Stanley. What I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no, oh God, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they?
Ok.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Tá, ok. Bizonho, mano. Mas, mano, é um jogo que sabe colocar piada e fala no momento certo, na hora certa.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Essa DLC... Uma DLC, né? Eu imagino que sim. Não sei quanto tempo depois do jogo. Ele fala mesmo, sei lá, como se fizesse tipo
What's this one got
muito
to
tempo.
say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the... Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more profound such ruminations. Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means. Well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself about. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? But at any rate, I do suggest that we not press the button again. I think the skip button has been aptly demonstrated. Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're... Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here, not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me once you push that button. That's what I'm realizing now, Stanley. I'm realizing that I needed to know that someone was listening. I needed there to be a vessel through which my... Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was...
Oh. Eita. Caramba, irmão, que barulho chato. É esse bagulho aqui, né? Certeza.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability, it's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time.
Mano, o cara fala muito. É que, mano, eu imagino que pela piada do negócio o cara vai falar muito. E muito. De propósito. E agora ele não tá falando nada, mano. Tô preocupado. Eu me sinto preocupado com ele, cara. Mas ele é meio chatinho às vezes, mano.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the.
Mano, a questão é, primeiro se passou, tipo, pelo que ele falou, se passou uns minutos, depois passou umas horas, uns dias, meses. Pô, a gente tá aqui há quanto tempo, mano? Mano, a gente tá o que aqui, ó? Uns 10, 20 anos, mano. Talvez até mais, né? 50 anos. Pensar que tudo isso começou com queremos um botão de pular a fala, né? Eita, caiu o teto, mano. Não, mas tipo, pelo menos o botão ele continua aqui, né? Ah, oh. Eu não sei o que o narrador foi fazer, mano, mas tipo, eu acho que foi bom pra esse lugar, né, mano? O lugar ficou, sabe, bonito, mano. Mano, o que aconteceu com esse lugar, mano? Não, mas o que tá acontecendo aqui? Credo, mano. Mano, se a gente ir pela lógica, pensar assim, eu tenho. Mano, o bagulho tá multiplicando. Pensa assim, tá se multiplicando. Mano, a gente deve tá tipo. Papo muito no futuro. Papo assim, mano. Sei lá, acho que talvez o ano 5000. Se vai voltar ou se quebrou? Mano, eu acho que foi. Não queria pular mais, velho. Tá, o sol ainda existe, né? Então a gente sabe que não foi, sei lá, 32 bilhões de anos. E desde. E se eu voltar lá, o que acontece? Ah, acho que não. Caramba, mano. Mano, que bagulho foi esse, mano?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Cara, eu acho que a gente, sei lá, ficou tanto tempo que o narrador morreu. E a gente provavelmente também morreu num espaço onde o.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Mano, que loucura foi essa? Ah, acho que esse foi o vídeo. Espero que tenham gostado. Esse ápice aí de loucura do Stanley no. Além do tempo, provavelmente num lugar onde não existe mais conceito de morte e vida. Loucura, loucura, loucura. Mas esse foi o vídeo. Espero que tenham gostado. Valeu, falou e fui.